Good morning, everybody. We will get started with the webinar in a couple of minutes. We'll give people some more time to join still. Good morning, everybody. We still have some participants joining, so we'll just give them a minute or two more, and then we will get started with the webinar. Okay, good morning. Welcome to this webinar hosted by the GrowGreen project on how to select the right nature-based solution in the right place for the climate change related problems being experienced in your city. My name is Kate Riley, and I'm the Program Officer for Nature-Based Solutions at the IUCN European Regional Office, and we are one of the partners in GrowGreen. So the basis for this webinar is that there's a whole range of nature-based solutions that are effective in tackling the climate and water-related challenges that we find in cities. And they provide a really wide range of co-benefits for people's mental health, for climate change mitigation, for allowing people to exercise, and for biodiversity. They can also be used in a wide range of contexts, either in combination with each other, alone, or integrated with great infrastructure. But it can be quite hard to know which nature-based solution would be most effective for the problems that are being experienced and in the locations that are experiencing those problems. So today we'll hear about some resources developed by the GrowGreen project and the Ignition project to support this decision-making process in identifying which nature-based solution to use where. We'll also hear from the city of Hamburg as to how evidence and information was used to support the decision-making process in designing the city's green roof strategy. We hope that by the end of the webinar, you will know where to go to find some more information and some more resources to help you make these decisions and to select which nature-based solution to use where. We hope that you'll also have seen an example of how this can work in practice and learn from some of the challenges and opportunities that were encountered there. So before we get started, just a few logistics. As you were informed in the email that was sent with the Zoom link, this webinar is being recorded. So we will make it available on the GrowGreen website and YouTube channel after the webinar. So if you have colleagues that are interested in catching up, you can send it to them. The functionality of the webinar setup means that you're all joining in listen-only mode, but you'll see at the bottom of your screen that you have a Q&A box where you can put your questions. So we encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A box throughout the webinar. We're going to hear from our 3 speakers first, and then we will have time available at the end to answer your questions. So we are now going to move on to our first speaker. We have Phivos Petsinaris, who is a consultant at Trinomics. He works mainly on environmental and climate change policy projects. He has a background in economics and a bachelor's and an MSc in environmental and natural resource economics from the University of Copenhagen. At Trinomics, he works on biodiversity and nature-related projects, as well as on impact assessments and evaluations of environmental policy interventions. Phivos has been working on GrowGreen since the beginning of the project, focusing on the market analysis of the nature-based solutions market in Europe. He will present a compendium of nature-based and grey solutions for climate and water-related challenges in cities. So I will hand over to you now, Phivos.
Thank you, Kate. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Fantastic. Let me just share my screen. I hope you can see my screen now as well.
Yes, yes, perfect.
Fantastic. So thank you everyone for joining. As Kate said, I will be presenting the compendium of nature-based and grey solutions, which is essentially a selection of solutions that myself, together with my former colleague at Trinomics, Laura Baroni, have developed as part of our work for GrowGreen. The objective of this presentation is firstly to disseminate the compendium and make it known to relevant stakeholders, and secondly to describe its content and its potential use. I know that most of you have seen already the compendium through the agenda. I will try to share it now. Okay, you know what, you can find it, the link to the agenda, and maybe you would like to skim through it while I'm presenting it. So yeah, at Trinomics I have been involved in GrowGreen since 2018 to perform a market analysis on the European market of nature-based solutions that are capable of addressing climate and water-related challenges in European cities. For this market analysis, we needed a reference of all the different nature-based solutions that exist in Europe and that can address the heat stress, river flooding, surface water flooding, coastal flooding, and water scarcity and poor water quality problems. For the purpose of this market analysis, we were also interested in the identification of grey solutions that can address the same challenges and that are commonly used in Europe. In our case, by grey, we mean engineered man-made structures that use hard building materials such as dams, dikes, and desalination plants, etc. Both the nature-based solutions and the grey solutions were identified through an in-depth literature review of existing databases and collections, such as the Natural Water Retention Measures Catalog, the Climate Adapt, the Danish Portal for Climate Change Adaptation, and the Draft Resin Adaptations Options Library. Of course, we were also based on various reports and scientific publications. So for this work, we were able to identify 36 nature-based solutions and 32 gray solutions. 8 of these NBS can address heat stress, 9 tackle river flooding, 18 surface water flooding, 5 coastal flooding, 13 water scarcity, and 16 water quality problems. On the other hand, we found 5 gray solutions that address heat stress, 10 river flooding, 9 surface water flooding, 12 coastal flooding, and 4 water scarcity, and only 1 that can tackle water quality. All these solutions are presented in the compendium in individual fact sheets that provide the most relevant information for the description of each solution. Essentially, it presents what an interested stakeholder would like to know to form a complete picture for each of the solutions included in the document. The compendium can serve as a reference for local authorities and other stakeholders looking to identify possible services and products that can help mitigate climate and water-related urban challenges. Due to the detailed information it provides for each solution, the compendium can also be used for the comparison of competing solutions that can address the same challenge. To make sure that the compendium will be useful to those that would like to use it, we have also included summary tables that present the set of solutions identified and the corresponding climate and water hazards that can tackle. This way, we wanted to just ensure that the user will be able to navigate through the document and easily identify the solutions that are interested in, or the solutions that can address the problems they want to target. I know that probably you cannot really see the tables very well here, but this is not exactly the intention. I just included them here to showcase the multifunctionality of nature-based solutions as compared to the gray ones. As you can see in the left table, which includes the NBS, most of these can address more than one hazard at a time, whereas the gray solutions on the right-hand side table can tackle one problem at a time. The nature-based solutions are known for the multiple co-benefits they offer in addition to their main function. So to showcase this, the compendium also includes a table, this table that provides an overview of the main function and co-benefits of nature-based solutions included in the document. This is based on a literature review, but also on expert judgment. The first column on the left shows the multiple benefits we have identified in the literature, and we have classified in these 3 main categories, namely environmental, social, cultural, and economic. The first row of the table presents all the nature-based solutions included in the document. The red boxes you can see in the table indicate the main benefits provided by each solution, while the green boxes show the co-benefits. The darker the green color, the higher the provision of the corresponding co-benefit of each solution. So this table can be useful to the user of the compendium who tries to identify the most appropriate solution for their use, as it can show in each column which solution offers the the most types of benefits, but also the intensity of their provision. Yeah, as already mentioned, the solutions included in the document are presented in individual fact sheets that provide the most important information, according to our opinion, that the average user would like to know. Those that probably have the compendium open now in front of them can actually see how it is structured and the structure of the fact sheets. The fact sheets start with the description of each solution, for each of which we have performed an in-depth literature review, and it includes information on what the solution is all about and on the potential different types of the same solution. It also provides information on how it has been used in the past and also what it entails in order to be implemented. The section on the problems or climate hazards addressed by the solutions shows which of the 6 problems of interest for GrowGreen, the heat stress and different floodings and water quality problems. We have also included the scale of the solution, which describes the scale at which each solution can be implemented. We found that 8 different scales are relevant to NBS implementation. These are the urban scale, the transport infrastructure, the peri-urban, the rural, the coastal, and water bodies and adjacent to water bodies scale. The urban is also further subdivided into building level and public space level. Building level includes NBS such as green roofs and rain gardens, while public space level NBS includes infiltration trenches and green urban furniture. Peri-urban includes green spaces and parks. Rural scale includes restoration of wetlands and restoration of rivers and lakes. The coastal scale includes NBS such as coastal wetlands restoration and managed realignment, while water bodies scale includes intervention in rivers and in lakes and wetlands, while adjacent to water bodies includes, for example, the restoration of floodplains. The fact sheets also describe the effectiveness of each solution. These sections gives quantitative estimations, of course, to the extent possible, of how much the solutions can achieve in the mitigation of the problem they can tackle. So, for example, for the green roofs, the effectiveness shows how much the temperature in buildings can be reduced and what is the percentage of rainfall that the roof can retain. The fact sheets also present a full list of co-benefits provided by each solution. This is again suggested by the literature and identified by expert judgment. They also present cost estimates for the installation, maintenance, and operation of each solution. These estimates, of course, vary in different contexts, but we have tried to find average values in the literature per service provided. And we've done that to mainly facilitate the comparison among the different nature-based solutions included, but also between nature-based solutions and the gray solutions included in the document. Although NBS are mostly known for their benefits, there are a few disadvantages or trade-offs that emerge from their implementation. Therefore, we have also included a section that describe issues like disadvantages and negative impacts that can emerge due to their installation. Of course, there are certain requirements that need to be met for the installation of nature-based solutions, which vary again in different contexts, but we have tried to create an, to the extent possible, again, an exhaustive list of such requirements and included them all in the fact sheets. And finally, we have also included a complete list of the references we use to develop the fact sheets, but also in some cases, potential sources for further research. As mentioned, the compendium was initially developed to help us with our work on GrowGreen, but we do see that it can be useful for other purposes outside of this project. In our opinion, it constitutes a complete selection of nature-based solutions that address these 6 main climate and water problems I mentioned. And so it can be seen as an index for the identification of relevant nature-based solutions that can tackle these problems. We see as the most relevant users for this index planners and policymakers, probably at local level, that want to find nature-based solutions to address specific problems they have identified, whether this is heat stress or different flooding problems or water scarcity or quality problems. The document can also be used by researchers or consultants like myself that work on nature-based solutions and want to have a complete selection of all the available solutions. The use of the document is quite straightforward, but I have included here indicative process that could be followed. According to this process, a planner should first identify the climate or water-related problem that is present in their area and needs to be tackled. Once this is known, they can use the summary tables I showed before to identify all the relevant nature-based solutions that can address the local problem. Through this, we'll probably create a list of competing solutions that can all address the same problem. So to find the most relevant solutions that fit the local context and specificities, the user will have to read the fact sheets of the identified solution in detail. This will hopefully leave only a handful of nature-based solutions available to only select one of them to be installed. The user can go back to the table that shows the complete list of co-benefits for each solution and pick the one that offers the most co-benefits. Still nature-based solutions can face opposition. An additional step in the parentheses, step 6, could also be undertaken in order to make a stronger case for selecting a nature-based solution over a gray solution. So the selected NBS can be then compared with the cost and benefits offered by one or more gray solutions included in the compendium, which will probably and hopefully show that the NBS is superior than the engineered solutions. So I have presented how the compendium can be used. Probably I should also mention what the document cannot do, and this is that it cannot offer a technical guidance of how to implement these solutions. So even when one can identify a nature-based solution that they want to be seen in their local context, there is also a need to identify a construction company and that has the technical know-how to undertake such works and install the selected nature-based solution. Yeah, so I will just leave it here for now, but please feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vivos. That was a very clear and helpful presentation to give a full overview of the compendium and how it can be used and what kind of information it provides. So thank you very much. I see there's a couple of questions in the Q&A box, so please keep putting your questions there. We'll have plenty of time to come back to them at the end. But for now, we're going to move to Hamburg to discuss an example of the development of Hamburg's green roof strategy, showing how the type of information that was presented in the compendium can be used and mobilized. So for this, I'm pleased to introduce Justus Quantz, who is Project Assistant at the Ministry of Environment, Climate, Energy and Agriculture for the Free and Hanseatic City of Hamburg. He holds a Master in Urban Ecosystem Services from the Technical University of Berlin, and he has worked with the ministry since 2018, where he works on mainstreaming nature-based solutions as part of the Clever Cities project. He has also worked within the Green Urban Lab at the ministry and supported and further developed the Green Roof strategy. So thank you, Justus. I see you're ready to go. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your introduction and for the invitation to present you to all of you that joined the webinar today, the Green Roof Strategy of Hamburg. There are currently many roofs in Hamburg and probably in your city too, which are completely empty and bare, while there are so many things to do and on the roof. So if you have a green roof, a flat roof, take a moment and walk across it and consider everything you could do on it. And you will explore that the possibilities are endless. So our multifunctional roof program I will present you today presents you some options and extra possibilities of roof functions in addition to keep your building dry. And the program also offers an option to finance it. We started the program in 2014, the first phase, with a green roof strategy, with the slogan, on your roofs, get set green. So yeah, I will first describe the starting point of the situation in Hamburg when we started the green roof strategy, and then come to the aims and the concept of the strategy itself, and go then in detailed into some of the action points, and shortly wrap up with some lessons learned already. So the starting point, as in many other cities all around the globe, is that the city over the past century grew in its population and also in its extent. So the surface ceiling continued over the century. In 1920, we had about 1 million inhabitants, and which is now at 1.8 million inhabitants in 2018. So it's the second largest city of Germany. And you saw in the last slides that especially in the outskirts of Hamburg, the urban development took place. And thus green fields are sealed and leaving back sorry, only very little space for urban nature. So but the rest of the urban nature and all the remaining green spaces are very much crowded, as there are more people, and the people tend to go to these areas, and thus also there is only little space left for biodiversity, which is also very important in our daily life. That's one point, but beside this consolidation, also the climate change effects already affect all of the cities all around the world. So in Hamburg, this is on the one hand side expressed by a more pronounced urban heat island or by heat waves. The urban heat island is shown in this figure with the air temperature at 2 meters above ground by a simulation. And we see that especially in the city center, the urban temperature is much higher than of the surrounding area. And thus we see in the city center a need to get active. Beside the raised air temperatures, Hamburg is also facing an increased precipitation due to the climate change. And together with the increased surface ceiling, an increased risk of urban flooding is omnipresent. We had one devastating example in 2011, where within 1 hour, a heavy rain event led to damage of 27 to 43 million euro. And so the aim of the city is to reduce this impacts and keep Hamburg a livable city. So the question is where to solve these problems. And when changing our perspective, it gets obvious that the solution is just above our houses. So the rooftop itself needs to be transformed. In Hamburg, we have about 70 square kilometers of rooftop, and half of it is flat. And with the research about the positive ecosystem services of green roofs in mind, our former first mayor of Hamburg, Olaf Scholz, introduced the green roof strategy in 2014 with a toolkit and of policy instruments based on the objectives of Hamburg's climate plan. That was the moment when the idea of the green roof strategy was set in place. So the aims of the green roof strategy are very much related to the threats Hamburg will face in the future. I will now present them to you in the next slides. So first, the green roofs will offer new free space right in the middle of the city, which is particularly attractive to residents and employees. And the green on the top of the roof can be then used for gardening and recreational activities, and simultaneously also generate additional income for sales and rentals or leases. But also such rooftop gardens are possible and allow the dwellers to have its own garden on its own roof and have urban agricultural production just around the corner. But also grocery stores and large industries have huge roofs which should be transformed. And this example from Berlin shows a good example where the rooftop is used as a sport pitch, and other examples are possible. But these are only the examples how to use the green roof or the rooftop itself. But there are other challenges. As I already mentioned, the climate change will affect the cities. And this is another incentive to put green roofs strategy in place. And the large areas of our rooftops should therefore also be used. Different studies showed that the green roofs offer water retention and evaporation of about 50 to 90% of the rainfall, and ease thereby the burden of the sewage system and reduce the risk of flooding. Thus, house owners with a green roof in Hamburg reduce the drainage and thereby also their 50% of their rainwater tax they have normally to pay. Nevertheless, green roofs are only one component to reduce the sealed surfaces in the city, as you can see on this slide. Beside the water management of green roofs, the green roofs also optimize the microclimate, as the surface does not heat as a concrete roof. The picture depicts this where the ministry building on the left-hand side has a green roof, which looks a little bit dry in this picture, but nevertheless it is 30 degrees Celsius lower than the adjacent school building right here. This is on a warm summer day, and we have 30 degrees Celsius in this day. So, and again, beside the cooling, the green roof also protects the surface materials and increases thereby the lifespan of the roof itself. But green roofs can not only play an important role for climate adaptation, but also for climate protection if a clever combination of green roof and energy production is realized. This combination comes along with a synergy for the green energy production and the vegetation. As the cooling of the green roof increases the efficiency of the photovoltaic system by 2 to 7%, and the green roof has also a positive effect of the solar panels, as the solar panels offer microhabitat and thereby increase the structure of the green roof and thus the biodiversity. This effect of the biodiversity is undisputed, as they're offering habitat to butterflies, bees, and other insects. And in a study we started this year in Hamburg, we found a pseudo scorpion that has not been found elsewhere in Hamburg before. And thus green roofs can be included in intervention compensation balance in accordance with the nature conservation regulations, and thus reduce the compensation costs needed elsewhere. Another advantage of the green roofs to solid roofs is the potential of fine dust binding. Nevertheless, this is very much in discussions to how effective this fine dust binding is. So those were the aims of this strategy, and those will be realized in very different action points. I will now explain. These action points go from promotion, dialogue, stipulation, and scientific support, and will be explained in the following slides. But before, I have shortly to mention that the program started in 2014 and was running until the end of last year. But we for sure realized that we didn't reach this goal as shown in this visualization with all the green roofs. So this is already one lesson we learned, that it takes time to realize a strategy and a project like this. And thus the city decided to prolong and extend the strategy for another 5 years. And since this year also includes vertical greening on buildings. Beside green roofs, also vertical greening is now a topic of the strategy. So I'll now come to the action points. So the first one is promotion. Where we already identified that we have this 70 square kilometers of rooftops which should be transformed. And again, we did a nice visualization to show the citizens how much unused space is right on top of their buildings. Another point of the action point promotion was a life cycle assessment we conducted for Hamburg, where we compared green roofs with the black roof for a lifetime of 40 years. And we showed that the green roof is less expensive, as the black roof has to be renewed after about 20 years. This is one section. Another one is from the promotion is that the leading example of the city itself. Therefore, Hamburg has decided to green all their new buildings that will be built for the city, and motivate thereby others to also green their buildings. One example are our school buildings, where about 7.5 million euros are provided in the next years for greenery on the school buildings. Another point are the subsidies. As already mentioned, we prolonged the strategy of our subsidies also until 2025, and by another 3 million euros for house owners. These funds are managed by the Hamburg Investment and Development Bank, and which does also the handling of the entire funding application. The subsidies will cover up to 60% of the construction costs, and again, 50% of the rainwater fees can be saved. A roof can be funded if the vegetation surface is larger than 20 square meters, and if the house owner decides voluntarily to green the roof with a substrate layer of about 12 centimeters. The support ranges from 18 to 90 euro per square meter, and then there are also costs for the completion care. Again, there are special funding programs. For example, if the house is located within the inner city center, where the need for action is even higher. The inner city is highlighted yellow. So these are the subsidies. Another element of the promotion is the funding calculator, where everybody can easily estimate the funding and realize how much funding he could receive for its project. The calculator is online available on our website, which unfortunately is only available in German yet. The second action point is the dialogue. This is also very important, as the municipality only partly owns the roofs of Hamburg, and thus the citizens need to be involved in this greening process. We therefore develop the nice informations and have our website where we present all the information. And we went a multimedia way, not only having this website, but also producing videos, audios, and printed brochures, but also offering excursions, meetings, and doing lectures in institutions in Hamburg. Once we also conducted a competition for green roofs and green facades in Hamburg, which had also the nice effect that we could gather useful information for our PR materials and other useful information about projects from Hamburg. The next action point is the stipulation. We are the land use plan, the landscape plan, or the urban climate concept. We have the ability that a green roof can be legally binding defined for any development plan, and thus a green roof to be obligatory for an area. In this picture, we see this very clear, where we see a development before 1985 and after 1985, when my colleagues started to introduce the green roofs in their development plans. And we see in the lower section all the green roofs on the industrial buildings. The fourth action point focuses on the scientific support, which is done with different partners. I already mentioned the life cycle assessment that we conducted with the Hafen City University Hamburg, but we also do an evaluation of the biodiversity on the green roofs, where we collect anthropods and other insects on the roofs. And I already mentioned that we found some very interesting results yet. And the last example of the scientific support is the evaluation of the green roof and their hydrological performance, where we show how much water in the real life is retained by a green roof. And in this example, in the figure, you will see a wet roof where the water is standing on the rooftop. So thank you. I'll come to the lessons learned before I thank you. So very important for us was the political decision, because this decision of the mayor gave us the power to develop this strategy and set it in place. And the strategic approach was also very helpful for us, as it sets predefined goals, and a general path to reach this goal was clear from the early stage of the project. Another key element was that other fundamental strategies, such as the climate plan, are necessary and need to be broken up in smaller strategies, such as the green roof strategy, as they have more concrete goals. And to break it up in smaller strategies helps to communicate, realize, and also to finance this projects. The usage of financial incentives is difficult to measure, and other cities clearly decide not to go this way. But for Hamburg, it was a good tool also for the PR reasons, as we have very, very different roofs to go and to show in our presentations. Very important was also the exchange with other partners, and from this exchange we identified the need to produce target-oriented materials for the media, with a steadily flow of information to keep them up interested. And also I already mentioned that to establish such a strategy takes a lot of time. So we are now in the second phase, and we already reached a bit. So in the beginning, we set the aim to realize 100 hectares of green roof, and we started from having 80 hectares in Hamburg, and now we have 168 hectares. So we're about 80 hectares realized in the first 5 years. And the last point on my lessons learned slide is the involvement of stakeholders, and this is for every project a key element to realize a successful project. So thank you very much, and I hope we have in the end some time to discuss all the questions that came up in the Q&A box already.
Thank you very much, Justus. That was a very great example. It showed clearly how matching the problems that you have with flooding and with heat, with the resources that you have available in the city with the empty roofs, is a very helpful approach. And I thought it was also interesting how understanding the effectiveness of the green roofs leads to a way to finance them through the reduced rainwater tax.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, indeed, we will come back to all the questions after our last presentation. So I'm now very pleased to introduce Sam Hartley, who is Campaign Officer at Business in the Community. Sam is focused on sustainability support, previously with universities across the UK, and now for businesses within the Business in the Community organisation. She's currently supporting on nature and adaptation for the Climate Action Team and the Challenge 2030 campaign. She does this through the Ignition project, and that hopes to build an enabling environment for investment in nature-based solutions. So over to you, Sam, when you're ready.
Okay, and just check in, can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can, and we can hear you well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kate. It's really great to hear from the other projects we've just heard about, because the Ignition project I'm about to speak about speaks to a lot of the same things that we're covering. We have a bit of a different angle in that we're looking at the investment side, so hopefully I can bring a little bit of that conversation in as well. So I'm Sam Hartley, I work at Business in the Community, and I work towards the Challenge 2030 campaign that's bringing businesses in to act for climate. And I work within that on the Ignition project. So just skip to the next slide. Okay, so this project, just a quick overview. There's 12 partners across Greater Manchester. That ranges from NGOs like Business in the Community to the local authorities and people like the Green Building Council and United Utilities, which is our kind of local water company as well. We're funded by 4.5 million from the EU's Urban Innovative Actions Fund. We're a 3-year project, started last year, and we're hopefully going to run now till April 2022 because of delays from COVID. So we've got a little while yet. So we're kind of a year in, just over a year in at the moment. as I said, we're based in the Greater Manchester region. We're specifically looking at innovative financing models for nature-based solutions that will eventually obviously help us adapt to the increasingly extreme impacts of climate change in the region. So just a little background on where the project came from. It was identified similar to what Eustace was saying around the reduction in the water cost for if you have a site and the water runs off. If you disconnect that runoff in a sustainable drainage system, you'll get a reduction in your banding charges from the water company United Utilities, which operate in Greater Manchester. So the project really stemmed from that initial idea, and then it's kind of been built up into where can other innovative financing models that could deliver a return or a saving for a site be built up, and we can move away from that one-off investment in a one-off kind of test site to more investment at scale, like Eustace was saying, across a larger city region, and bring in climate resilience and compounding all those benefits across a large area with a large amount of investment. So that's really where we've come from. I'm going to speak a little bit about a piece of work that sits within the project that's useful for hopefully for people on the call, and a couple other aspects as well that might be useful. So as I say, we're looking at investment, and to do that we needed to provide a foundation of quantifiable benefits that allows the identification for investment opportunities. So how do nature-based solutions perform, or if they do, where they don't, and who are they benefiting, who are the stakeholders, and who can we identify as kind of beneficiaries who could contribute to this investment and who will get a return from it. So as we've already heard, there's a huge amount of research out there in nature-based solutions. There's tools and guides and some of the things we've heard about today as well, so it can be a little overwhelming. So for part of the project, what we wanted to do was to collate all this into a way that was useful for us, looking at the investment angle, but also for others in a kind of easy to use tool to identify the benefits and really just begin to understand. A lot of this piece of work as well is around the engagement side, and maybe bringing people on board that wouldn't necessarily know to go to a nature-based solution, really to highlight these benefits through the quantifiable evidence that we found. So we decided to, as part of the project, pull together all of this evidence. Myself, a business community led by Rachel Morrison, who's the Nature-Based Solutions Advisor at the Greater Manchester Combined Authorities. Over a 6-month period, we collated evidence under a rapid evidence assessment. We collated over 1,000 evidence items across 5 urban nature-based solutions databases. Urban because of the focus of our project, that's the area we can have the most impact in Greater Manchester. And we looked at the evidence for 12 different benefits. So you can see the solutions we looked at on the left-hand side there, similar to everything we've spoken about already, and will be included in the GrowGreen compendium as well. So green walls, roofs, parks and green spaces, things like little parklets and playing fields and verges, so a real range in that area. Then to street trees and sustainable drainage enabled street trees and sustainable drainage systems. And on the right hand side there, you can see the benefits we were looking at. So we really wanted to build a wide picture and understanding of the performance. So not just the obvious environmental benefits, but things around the social benefits and the economic benefits as well, which is obviously important to us looking at investment. So we created these mammoth databases. As you can see, they aren't pretty, they are humongous, and there's a lot of information in there. And as I say, these are to support the work we're doing on research for funding models within the project ourselves, but we decided that it would be beneficial to make these available to everyone. Obviously, there's a huge amount of project working in this arena as well, so it's just adding to that list of resources. So it's very easy to go into these databases and filter them how you want. We have a webinar as well on how to use them, and I've got a link at the end of these slides that will be sent out with all these different resources linked, so don't worry about not accessing them just now. So obviously there's a lot of different studies in here, and so we summarised them where we could, taking averages of the performance for different solutions. And you can see here, this is just an example of one of the summary tables. And we split that out into the different solutions as well, so for green roofs, extensive or intensive, and for all the different nature-based solutions. So just to give you a little bio of one of the databases, so this is a green roofs database. In there's 256 evidence items. As I say, the system split between extensive and intensive, so you can search by which kind of green roof you'll be interested in. And that table at the bottom there shows the split of the evidence that we found against each of the benefits we were looking for. And these tables are quite telling in themselves, and for you to understand where these systems are most evidenced to perform well. As you can see here, for green roofs, you've got energy use, temperature, water quantity and quality as well. So it really gives you a quick insight into their strengths. So the available resources that I've just mentioned there, so all of the databases are able to be accessed, and you can filter through, as I say. And to support that, because they are just huge databases, we have a 3-page user guide on how to use them. We also have a headline findings report that was written by myself and Rachel when we finished the collation of the information. It goes a little more in depth into the evidence. So for instance, other than just looking at the numbers in the summary table, it will give you a better idea of why we think that evidence was like it was, or why there wasn't so much, or how they perform against different nature-based solutions. So it gives that a little bit more of an in-depth of an insight as well. We also have a methodology report to describe how we went about collecting the data, and what studies we discounted and what we didn't, and the criteria we were looking at to include in this database. As I say, there's a how to use the evidence-based webinar, and then we, from this point of finishing the collation of the evidence in summer, we are now taking it forward into kind of more of a stakeholder engagement piece of work and a communications piece of work. So this nature-based solutions to the climate emergency business report was what we produced over summer. And this is really to engage people and show how nature-based solutions can satisfy businesses and organizations' priorities. And so what we did was we translated all that massive amount of data into areas that would be of interest for the businesses and our business members of business community, but the wider audience as well. So we kind of restructured it into climate change, mitigation, adaptation, resource use, nature and biodiversity, health and well-being, and socio-economic impact. And really just kind of gave an overview of how these can perform. So really a great engagement tool. And we can see here, so this is a kind of quick look at the green wall. We've taken some of the best performance aspects on the left-hand side there, and then some of the CapEx and OpEx costs that were calculated within some of the future funding stream aspects for us as well. So we just pulled that across for this resource. So within the project, it's being used to support the research for investment models. It's also a great tool to be connecting with this as an engagement program. I'm really looking at perceptions around green space. Obviously, we found from surveying and workshops that people understand the health and well-being benefits very well, but they really underestimate the benefits around water attenuation and obviously climate adaptation. So that's an area where we're using this resource and kind of re-engaging with the public in Greater Manchester and young people to kind of map how their perceptions change throughout the programme. We are also linking with the Ignition Living Lab that's being built at the University of Salford, and I'll talk about that shortly as well. Similar to the business report, we're engaging with local authorities. So I'll be looking at Foibus's resources for local authorities there as well. And we're continuing to engage business on the true value of nature using some of the resources that I've spoken about already. So how can these resources help you to choose the right nature-based solution? We're at the beginning here with the report of engaging people who would not otherwise be engaged, and a kind of awareness raising program on the different benefits of nature-based solutions and how they can perform. So the evidence base and the reports, they highlight opportunities for partnership investment. we've identified gaps in evidence, so where nature-based solutions aren't well evidenced to perform. We can also use the information to calculate benefits at scale. So for instance, if you had a proposal of a site, you could take our carbon per tree or water attenuation per tree and then scale that up. Some of the information is also per meter squared, so you can get an estimate of the impact that your installation will have. And then that can be built into funding proposals, business cases, and funding bids as well, which is what we've had feedback that is already being used for. We can calculate the impact on specific communities. So as I say, if you were working with community organisations, you can pull out the health and wellbeing stats and the social side. If you're looking at communicating with, for instance, developers, which we are within the project, you can pull out the local economic stats and the land and value increase stats as well. So it's a great communication tool. And for our businesses as well, it's used to provide evidence for sustainability commitments around net zero goals and biodiversity goals and energy efficiency. So we're really at the beginning of the journey with that, but this is the real potential we have in collating this evidence. I'll just give a quick look at the Living Lab at the University of Salford, which is very exciting because the second phase has just started this week to be built. So the first phase is complete. You can see on this diagram here on the far left, the area marked with A. That's a rain garden interconnected with the green wall that you can see on the right. A swale, there's a lot going on there. So that area is complete. That was the first phase. And then if you move over to the right, you can see the green roofs and the green walls. And that is just being built this week, started to be built this week. And the interesting thing about the Living Lab is obviously all the data we have in the evidence base is from individual installs. This Living Lab is all interconnected and then monitoring how the water moves through it, the human impact, and they've got active researchers on site. So we're at the beginning of the journey with that really. And so that's one to watch. And we'll have live data then from the Greater Manchester area to feed in to the work we're doing around investment at scale in the city region. So that's a really exciting part of the project. My last slide is just a lot of resources for what I've spoken about. So I've done some translation of the evidence base into some kind of short and snappy blogs for communications and our webinars and things around the Living Lab as well. So I think these slides will be sent around so everyone can have a look at that if you would find that useful. And that's me. So I think I'm handing back now for some questions.
Thank you very much, Sam, for that very clear presentation, giving us an overview of more resources that can be used to support the decision-making process, and especially clearly making the link between the evidence and the investment opportunities, drawing on some of the ideas that were raised before in Justus's presentation in Hamburg. Indeed, we're now going to go to questions, and we have several in the Q&A box. You can keep adding your questions and we'll get to as many as we can in the next half an hour before the webinar finishes. So a practical one for Fivos to get us started from C. Dada in Excel in Brussels. Are there examples of already developed cases included in the nature-based solutions fact sheets in the compendium? They say they couldn't find them, but they would be very useful.
There are not so many, actually. We try to keep the compendium as generic as possible. So we have been using information coming from case studies, but we didn't include case studies as such. So in the references, in the list of references, probably the interested user can find case studies or through Googling.
Right, so the references in the fact sheets at least provide a route to go to find these case studies. That's great. Our next question is probably one for all of you based on your experiences, so please feel free to jump in. The co-benefits of nature-based solutions clearly mean that these are the way forward. However, many private developers are only interested in benefits related to their own project. How do we therefore incentivize uptake in nature-based solutions based on their wider benefits? And this is from Marcel Ridyard from AFL Architects.
I can give a first answer to that. It's a very good question, and it's very common problem in using nature-based solutions. I think when we're talking about small-scale NBS, then an important factor is behavioral change. The people are such to ask for these solutions to be implemented in their buildings, in their neighborhoods. So this would give an incentive for the private developer to implement and install nature-based solutions. And a second avenue of exploration of how to add more NBS in the city in general would be private and public partnerships. When a private developer wants to tackle one specific problem, but there is an NBS that can also offer co-benefits to the wider community, then the local authority might be able to come in and say that I will co-finance X percentage of your project. This would be an idea.
Yes, go ahead, Justus. You look like you have something you want to add.
For the example of Hamburg, it's very easy because the green roof might also create a benefit of the owner itself, as it increases the rent, and also has a positive impact of the surrounding. And for other nature-based solutions, this might be done by regulation if for the development plan it is defined or required to develop a green roof. That is a tool we also have. So to write it into the landscape or development plan that all the buildings in this area have to be realized with a green roof, I think.
Sam, did you want to add anything to this question?
Yeah, just kind of the same as what everyone else has been saying, really. As part of the project, we're looking at mapping and mapping areas of flood risk, but then overlaying that with different areas. So areas of social deprivation, areas where the population density is high, but the green space is low. So it's really, yeah, it does involve a lot of kind of the local authority pulling that together. But some of the things we've looked at around land and property value that Eustace has mentioned, it's really significant. And we've got a lot of examples in the UK of where we can green streets and that local area then benefits within, I think, I can't remember, there's a specific meter distance from one study where it shows the increase in the property value just being in proximity to that greener space.
Great, thank you. So we have several routes there to incentivizing uptake. Regulation was mentioned, using public-private partnerships, taking advantage of the direct benefits of nature-based solutions to landowners in the local area and on the building and for the building, and sort of consumer demand, public pressure is also a route we can take advantage of there. Thank you all. This is another more straightforward question, probably for Fivos. A key issue, this question comes from Alberto Montanari, and he says, a key issue is the technical design of nature-based solutions. Do we have any reference to point to for engineering design? He mentions that we obviously know how to size a sewer system for the rainfall that we're designing for, but it's hard to know how to estimate how much rainwater is infiltrated through a pervious surface.
That's true, and we had similar problems when we were developing the fact sheets. We couldn't really find hard facts of how much nature-based solution can contribute in mitigating the climate or water-related hazard in question. We have tried to include some references and some estimates in the effectiveness of NBS. However, we are not, as I said in my presentation as well, we were not able to give any kind of engineering instructions of how to install NBSs.
Thank you. And I think probably some of this experience and data will come as we get more experience with using nature-based solutions and monitoring their impacts over the long term. Because we can make short-term comparisons, but often the benefit of nature-based solutions is really seen in the long term. So I think that will help to answer this question. Thank you. Another more technical one. This question comes from Paul. How does soil quality and soil contamination factor into the nature-based solutions compendium? In some cases, soil quality is a co-benefit and sometimes contamination is a potential disadvantage. But if we're working with urban soils, how do we ensure, it's important to ensure suitable quality without simply replacing them?
Yeah, probably that's for me also to answer. But we didn't look in particular in soil matters, in soil quality or soil degradation. We have evidence that show that soil quality, there are benefits coming from MBS that benefit soil quality in general, but and only I think one NBS had some effects on soil degradation. So yeah, we didn't in particular look at that, but yeah, what we can say is that some NBS have soil benefits, soil quality benefits.
Thank you, Phoebos. And Justus, did you have any experiences with soil quality in the green roofs strategy implementation?
Unmute, sorry. Yes, we developed a handbook for maintenance of green roofs, where we indicate what needs to be done to maintain all the good services of a green roof, and also indicate how much this costs for an extensive green roof or for an intensive green roof. But that's only available in German and also only applicable for Hamburg, because this might be slightly different in other regions. As we have enough rain dispersed over the entire year, other green roofs might need an irrigation system.
Thanks, that's an important point, that the maintenance requirements for nature-based solutions, and probably also to some extent their effectiveness and their code benefits, also depends on where they are. So everything will probably need to be adapted to the local context, the local climate, etc. Great, thank you.
I could just come in on that. On the Living Lab, as part of the project, on the green roof, they're using different planting systems across the whole green roof. There are lots of different sections, and then they're researching the different effect that will have on kind of water attenuation and things like that as well. And on the irrigation thing, there was a question in the Q&A around the irrigation system for the Living Lab, and that is hoped it will be completely self-sufficient, so self-irrigating, and it has a huge storage capacity as well. And I think it is connected to the mains for times of drought if there's nothing in the tank, basically, but it's predicted that will be very unlikely to happen. So yeah, one to watch on that front.
Great, thank you. And how can we find out about the outcomes of the Living Lab process? Is it monitoring the website, or?
Yeah, I've in my presentation I've popped a little section on the Living Lab. So they have a newsletter you can sign up to, and then we've got our social accounts as well, and they'll be kind of blogging and things as it goes on as the research starts.
Great, thank you, because that sounds like it will be really useful for participants to follow to answer some of these questions. Okay, so moving on to some less technical questions from Anonymous. Since many of these solutions are partly technical, how do you think that an NGO or a volunteer team could be involved in these solutions to contribute as much as possible? I'll throw that open for any of you.
I'm not quite sure if this answers the question, but I remember one organization, I don't know if it can be called an NGO, from Munich, which is called Green City, and it produces a much movement around green topics in the cities and collects all the good examples within the cities, and also develops some ideas how the city could develop in a more green and more nature-based way. That could be one possibility, is how they could be active. So by increasing the interest of the publicity.
Yeah, that's great. Sam or Vivos, did you find any other examples of NGOs or volunteers contributing to implementation of nature-based solutions in your research?
I think as part of the project, as I mentioned, we surveyed local residents in Greater Manchester, and our kind of NGO partners are City of Trees, Groundworks and the Royal Horticultural Society, and they work together and they workshop things around kind of asking people to design their own green space and understanding what their priorities are. So there's a lot to do around engaging around the adaptation benefits and the kind of understanding of climate adaptation and water attenuation and heat stress and temperature reduction. I think that's a huge area that we're kind of looking into at the moment, is kind of the engagement around that as well.
Thanks a lot. And probably a slightly linked question from Chloe. Leading on from your point, Sam, about increasing property prices, how should we, or how has it been done in Hamburg, for example, take gentrification into mind? So the possible negative implications of nature-based solutions for inequality within a city.
Actually, I don't know how this has been tackled in Hamburg. If I don't remember any case. Sorry.
One thing we're hoping to do is, through these citizens we've already engaged, work a lot around that co-design aspect, and hopefully at the end of the project we'll have a list of sites where we will be going in to install sustainable drainage systems for that specific funding model, and that could potentially be in schools. And so we're engaging with our NGO partners around their engagement with schools, and looking, it's that co-design aspect that can help to tackle some of those things around gentrification, where people are involved in creating the communities they live in, and the designers know what their priorities are, and they can build it around that community's specific needs, which might be different to what they initially plan as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that ensuring that the nature-based solutions that we are put into a community meet the needs of that community through a participatory co-design process. And that's also what we're doing in the project of GrowGreen. We also are installing a nature-based solutions demonstration project in a neighborhood of Manchester. And the citizens there have been involved in designing a park so that the park specifically is designed to absorb rainwater. It has nature-based solutions features. And it also has many of the features that the community requested. So meeting spaces, play areas for the children, a nice environment to be in. So it integrates their desire for their local area with the nature-based solutions features in one place. So that's great. Coming to Hamburg, a question from Shreya Utkarsh. What are the transferability conditions of the green roof example from Hamburg? Can your solutions be upscaled and outscaled to other cities?
I very much hope so, that the idea of the strategy can be transferred to other cities. I think one of the points is that we slowly begin to translate our materials and thus our informations we collected on the topic into English and thus share it with other partners. But we already have a huge exchange with other cities within Germany and German-speaking countries, where we exchange the informations how we can better implement green roofs and improve the quality of the green roofs also. And yeah, I think there is a huge potential to upscale this to other cities. How this should be done, if it should be, I think it must come from each city itself. And currently I see that there's a lot of movement in all the different parts of Germany I can speak of, where the cities are very much interested to introduce similar strategies.
Thanks a lot. And I think that shows the example of the importance of having examples within countries, so that other cities within the country can learn from other cities with a similar context, in a similar regulatory environment, in the same language, to transfer that knowledge and the lessons learned.
Yeah, and I think especially this exchange between the cities is very helpful to identify potentials, how to improve their way. We have a huge interaction with Vienna, because they are already very much in this topic since a few years.
Yes.
A lot of years.
Yeah, and so the experience in Hamburg was partially informed by the experience in Vienna, if I remember correctly. And one more question for you, Justus. There was a question about the competitions that you organized. Could you expand on that a little?
Yes, we invented a prize of a green project or a green building project. So people could apply for this prize, and this was basically the competition. So people made pictures of their green roof or of their green facade, and yeah, tried to get the prize, and thus we got into a discussion about the quality of green roof, and also could collect some nice examples what exists already in Hamburg. I'll try to. We have also a documentation about this event on our website. I'll collect it, link it to the question.
Thank you, that's great. A question for all of you from an anonymous attendee. They say that NBS are becoming more popular and are being used more widely. Do you see or expect any skills gaps that could slow the effective implementation of NBS? Like, do we have enough operational workers, like contractors, machine operators, enough project managers? Where do you expect to see those skills gaps from the research you've done and the experiences in your cities?
If I may. So as part of GrowGreen, actually the main focus of our work on GrowGreen was market analysis on nature-based solutions. So as part of this, we also focused on identifying key barriers for the implementation of NBS. What we found, which was mainly on the frontrunner cities, which was the case for the frontrunner cities of GrowGreen, was that there are sufficient developers of NBS in cities. It was not mentioned as a big gap, the supply of such solutions. However, it was mentioned that technical capabilities of workers that work in such companies might be a problem, and one of the suggested solutions was the introduction of courses on NBS in design schools, in exterior design schools and architects, and yeah, this would be some potential gaps that we identified and some ways to tackle them.
Thank you very much. Sam or Justus, did you have anything to add to that from Manchester or Hamburg?
Yeah, I think in Manchester for the Living Lab, for instance, we managed to get a local organisation to do the Living Lab, and that was, we were quite happy with that because obviously it's very innovative. It's systems that they would not have like linked together before, so that's worked really well for us. But if we're talking more about scale, sustainable drainage systems are used quite regularly for highways and things like that, so it's more of an adaptation for those solutions. But looking at things around green roofs and green walls, that might be an area where it's a bit trickier for us. In Manchester, in London, they have a planning policy around that, so there's more green roof organisations down there, which obviously isn't really far for us. But yeah, there's also a problem around upskilling in the kind of planning approval, planning permission area in local authorities, because we engaged with some suppliers initially for the project, and it was raised that they've tried to put green walls in places and the planning permission's been denied because they didn't fully understand the kind of the drainage systems that go into them. So that's definitely another area where it needs to be worked on around awareness and understanding between the suppliers and the people who give the planning permission as well, whoever they may be in the different areas. That's another area that's raised in the project.
Great, thanks. Justus, anything to add on this point of skills?
I only have one example where to explain that we did some training for architects in Hamburg, how they implement nature-based solutions in the design process. This fits to the question.
Yeah, I think it makes the point that quite a wide range of skills are needed here, from designers to landscape architects, engineers, also people who can run the co-design participatory processes that we mentioned before, as well as the people who do the work on the ground to build the solutions and
also
maintain
to maintenance. So that was also one reason why we developed such brochures, as it showed up that people don't know how to maintain the green roof and what should be the aim of the maintenance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the aim of the maintenance is also an important point. What are we maintaining it for?
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think as we're coming to the end of our time that we had available today, and we've answered almost all the questions, we'll try to get answers to the last ones to you. I would like to thank our three speakers, Vivos, Justus, and Sam, very much for their time today and for giving us such clear and interesting presentations and a lot of new resources that we can go to support the decision-making process of selecting the right nature-based solution in the right place. I think we've seen today the importance of that understanding of the evidence of the effectiveness of nature-based solutions, and the need for it to be adapted to the context a bit, but that evidence can drive decision-making processes, it can drive the financing of nature-based solutions, understand how they should be maintained. But there are also a lot of implementation issues that we need to take into account, not just the evidence that we bring in the decision-making process, but that we need to consider in the next stage along, the need to bring in citizens and stakeholders in the decision-making process, make sure that what we're doing meets their needs, particularly for managing the issue of gentrification and inequality, which is a very important one, and making sure that we have sufficient financing, that we know how to maintain our nature-based solutions, and that we have enough skills available through the whole process of implementing them and maintaining them long-term, so that we can maintain the benefits that they give us in the long term. So I would like to thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much for your interesting and detailed questions. We will be in touch soon with a short report on the event today, as well as the recording and the presentations, if the speakers are okay with that, and all the links that were mentioned, so that you can have that as a resource base to refer back to. So thank you all very much for your participation today, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.